Okay, welcome back to the channel. So last time we finished off the interior and chassis. Today we're gonna get the suspension and the wheels and tires on. And then hopefully by next episode my paint will get here and we can do the body and hopefully finish this thing up. So let's jump down to the bench and actually the spray booth and get going. So we first started off with Mr. Finishing Servicer 1500 Gray. I sprayed this on all the parts that were being painted semi-gloss or flat black basically. So yeah, it was a real easy process getting this stuff on as usual. We're now spraying the frame braces with Mr. Finishing Servicer 1500 White and finishing them with XF66 by Tamiya. We're now spraying all the corresponding pieces with LP5. I just kind of light coats until it built up a nice looking coat. Yeah. As you can see, I'm just building up the coat slightly until I get a nice dark black across the piece. I usually wait about 3 to 5 minutes in between coats, depending on how light I'm spraying. I'm now spraying all my aluminum pieces with LP38. I use Mr. Rapid Thinner to thin out the metallics. I just find it gives them a little bit of a brighter shine. I like them a lot though. I'm now spraying all our steel pieces with metallic gray LP61 from Tamiya. I also thin this with Mr. Rapid Thinner. I do it about 70% thinner, 30% paint. Some people might think that's a little bit too much, but it works great for me, so I'm going to keep doing it that way. Yeah, just light coats until you get a nice coverage. Now spraying the drive shaft with LP XF2, flat white, real easy. I'm now spraying flat black LP3 as per the directions. This is broken up into 2 clips because I forgot to do the wheel backs and a couple other window bracings. So I had to come back and do them again. So I had to split the flat black into 2 separate clips. So now we'll hop down to the bench and do some assembling. This is the oil cooler. Yeah, just put it over the hole and stick it on basically. Real easy to do. Now I'm putting in the back shocks. This wasn't a hard deal either. Just, take time and do it the way they're supposed to be done. So here I'm assembling the rear end. We're sort of getting that on and in place. So just putting the springs in now. A little bit of a fiddly piece here because I got fat hands and they don't do what they're supposed to do. So now we have our rear end together. And we're just putting the pulley system on now. This is really easy to do. Here we're just putting in the vent. And now we have the engine in place with the drive shaft. And we're going to put the exhaust dumps on now. This took a little bit of fiddling, but eventually I got the super glue and accelerator out, and I got it done in a rather easy fashion. Now I'm putting the speedometer decal on. I had some trouble with this. I ended up had to cut the big decal, the big speedometer out into its own separate decal and place them all that way so they would sit flat. But other than that, it was no problem. Finally, after all the fumbling, I got it in place and pretty happy with wherever I got it. So I start slicing away. Took a while and a couple of cuts, but I eventually got it. I use Mark Fit Strong and a hair dryer for this decal. I find the Mark Fit Strong isn't really too effective. That's why I had to employ the hair dryer, as you can see. Now I'm attaching the the steering column to the dashboard. I should have probably put the big part of the dashboard on first and had it one big piece in hindsight, but it still turned out okay and I wasn't too disappointed with the results. Now I'm attaching the rest of the dashboard together. This went together fairly easily, but I did have some trouble at one point with it, but I managed to get around it. So here we are attaching the other dashboard decal. I would have attached it first, but I had forgotten about this one. The directions aren't really too clear on where decals go, so really be sure you check your resources, guys. Just smoothing it out with a cotton swab. I do this a lot, especially if it's a bigger decal, because I find the water likes to lay underneath it and you need something to push all that excess water out. And then I followed up with some Mark Fit Strong on everything with a hair dryer. We're now attaching the front shocks. This is pretty straightforward. It's got two small indents on the frame where they butt up to each other, so you just push it on in and get it home. Now we're just attaching the upper radiator hose. Now I'm just gluing the lower radiator hose in place. I take the tweezers here and just put it in the holes where it's designed to go. Now I'm attaching the front suspension. The extra thin didn't really work. I actually had to resort to using super glue. Now I'm putting the frame braces in place. This was pretty easy. Now I'm placing the other frame brace. This was a kind of a fiddly operation, but it wasn't too difficult in hindsight. Probably because I'm new to NASCARs, so that's why I had so much difficulty here. So this is the difficulty I was having with the front suspension. The piece came out of the box warped, so I couldn't really get it to fall into the holes where it was supposed to go, so I resorted to super glue and accelerator. So now I'm doing the rims and the decals that go along with them. Now I'm just taking a toothpick and positioning it until I can get it in place. And then I'm pushing out the excess water with the cotton swab. And just basically repeating the process here. I also ended up using Mark Fit Strong on these afterwards. I just felt like if I put some Mark Fit on there, it would help the decal to stick to the surface. So I applied a lot of that, and I also used a hair dryer to heat everything up and get everything nice and warm to kind of melt it a little bit to the actual surface of the model. I didn't want to lose any decals as I was putting them on the car. That's why I did this, and it worked out overall pretty good, so I would call it pretty much a happy accident. Overall, I was very happy with how the tires and rims turned out on this car. I was very worried about painting the Goodyear Eagle logos on the tires, but once I got into it and just started to get to work on it, it became less and less of a problem. Okay, and that's a wrap for this part of the 97 Monte Carlo Jeff Gordon car. Next time we're going to do the body, hopefully. If not, we'll have to figure out something else to do. I don't know what, but we'll figure it out. Anyway, take care everyone. Have a good one.